Jim Kelly was speaking Labor Day, wasn't he? This bloody mask. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the IES. For those who don't know me, I'm Councillor Paul Little. Welcome to the fellow councillors, the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and also the staff in attendance. We would like to acknowledge this land we meet on today as the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with the country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people and are the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today, and all other Aboriginal people who may be present. Roll call is there's one apology, which is the Councillor Kelvin Goldstone. Is there any motions to grant a leave of absence? There being none, we'll go to the, and there's no non-attendance other than Councillor Goldstone. Well, Councillor, who? Jim, I'm sorry, Councillor Ballalonger is absence. Public open forum. I have 4 people down to speak tonight. Public open forum. Be in order. Each person gets a 5-minute time to talk on their topic. So the ones in order are Joe Greco, Susan Cole, Chris George, and Gregory Lydon. So can I have Joe? Oh, sorry. Yeah, can I have Joe Greco to the microphone, please?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here on behalf of the majority of the residents on Helia Road, Evanston.
Excuse me, I don't think the microphone's on, Joe.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all speakers, when you come up to the mic, you may remove your mask.
How's that? Okay, sorry about that. I'm here on behalf of the residents of Helia Road, Evanston. We've gone from house to house and we've canvassed the entire road, and we strongly oppose the change of the road name to anything else but to leave it as it is, simply because most of the people down that road are elderly. They are absolutely devastated and besides themselves in having to go through the rigmarole of changing all their licenses and land titles and everything else, and they're beside themselves. It's too daunting for them, let alone myself. I've just printed off the internet a 1.5 pages, and it's from a government site that says of all things that you have to do when places and things that you need to change addresses for, and I could fill up the second page with things that aren't even on here. You know, at the end of the day, what is the whole idea about changing the road? What confusion is there? I've lived on Helia Road for more than 20 years, and I've not had a parcel that couldn't find me. I've not had a tradesperson that said they couldn't find me, or any post. Sorry, excuse me. I've had 2 letters that came to my place, and they're actually addressed to Helia Road, Helia. And that's an Australia Post problem, not our problem or your problem. So where is the confusion and where is the justification in changing all this? The amount of running around and cost involved in changing all these things. Insurances won't do it unless you do it in person with photo ID. Same with financial institutions, same with passports, same with driver's licenses. You've asked this Helia Road, Evanston, a massive task. And for what? Is it justified? What is the problem in keeping it as it is? That's all I say. Can someone explain to me why?
Have you anything else, Joe?
That's about it. I just...
Excuse me, just...
And all I suggest is if there's a confusion between Helia and Evanston, change the road size. It says Helia Road, Evanston, and Helia Road, Helia on the other road. That's got to be an easier solution. You're asking the 80-odd residents of Helia Road a massive task to undertake to change all their names and all the addresses on all the legal documentation and everything else. It's a mammoth task. So, our street is a very old street. There's old houses on there, and it's always been Helia Road. I know it's changed a couple of times, but I know it's come back to Helia Road again, and we'd like it left that way. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you know, changing land titles and stuff like that. Is the council going to fork out for the cost of replacing my land title and any other expenses that I might incur? I doubt that very much. So, you know, the residents have to forfeit and forego all the costs. That's not fair. It's just not just right.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Please take a seat. Could I have Susan Conlon up, please?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Susan Cole. I live at 17 Hillier Road, Evanston. I have lived there for 20 years. I've actually walked that road for over 40 years when there was a church there. Firstly, I'd like to know what the complaint was about and whom made that complaint. Are they here this evening to give their reason for wanting the change? That's a question.
That's not relevant, Susan. Just keep your
Okay.
topic, please.
All right, I'll keep to what it is then. Myself, when I first received the first letter in late July, sorry, I think it was July, and that the forum was going to be held in September, I approached a young gentleman by the name of David. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name. I do apologise, your surname. He informed me that there was some objection about the same name. I can understand that, but I think with today's technology, SatNav and all the other technology that's available, that shouldn't be there. And as Joe said, it's a very good way of putting Hillier Road Evanston and Hillier Road Hillier on signs, better than trying to get 89 people, and 89 people were against it. Not one person that I spoke to. I spent the whole of a Sunday, and so did Amanda, going down the street, everyone. And I might add, not everyone was even aware this was happening. And I even spoke to David about that and informed him that. And recently, with the last letter that was sent out about today's date, I have got people here who can verify that they didn't receive the information about this meeting either. So council did not inform all residents. A lot of people, when they found out when I first went down with a petition, actually were quite bemused and then upset regarding what is happening. And then the change of the name, I forget what it was, but it was something ridiculous. Whoever thought that up, I think that's a laughing stock. It made mockery of every residence that's in that street. Sorry, road. It's not a street, it's a road. It made mockery of ratepayers. That if they pay roughly, I'm going very mildly, on $2,500 a year in rates, equivalates to 89 people on that road alone. There are I'm not talking about the little closes that go off, of $222,500. And there's a lot of houses there that have got very large houses. They wouldn't be $2,500 rates a year. And you're asking them to now put in their pockets, their hands in their pockets, and pay out more money. The council has just increased rates as well. I think it's terrible. I think it's a really bad time. COVID in itself has put people under pressure financially, emotionally. And now you bring this up now. You tell me it's right, it's not. And also one of the residents down there, and I hope you're timing me, one of the residents down there also told me 20 years ago, the council tried to do this, and it was, again, everyone in the street against it. And we're here again 20 years later. Is this going to continue? This is not a justification of rates that are paid. It's environmental, it's structure. That's what this committee should be about. The lights on the road, for a start. are ridiculous. There's dark spots. It's not safe to walk at night. They're the things that should be before this committee this evening.
You have 30 seconds left, Susan, if you want something
30
else to say.
seconds left. You've also received some letters. There's a letter from a Mr. Wesley Archibald that you would have received prior to this meeting. And he mentioned a lot of things. And I think you should read his letter. There's a lot of committees with the same name, streets, all through Adelaide and South Australia. There's no problems. This is not a justification of ratepayers' money.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
And then Mr. Gregory Lydon. Gregory Lydon first, please.
I'm not prepared tonight. I haven't received a single communication about tonight's meeting. I don't have a statement. I thank our friends for the statement they've made. I do have a question. Is anybody available to answer questions?
Not at the moment, sir.
Not at the moment.
No.
So any statistics or anything whatsoever justifying this change? Not at the moment, no.
There'll be a motion put forward later that would explain what's going to happen. Item 7.1, you wish to state for that?
Yeah, but that's not the question I asked. I asked, is there any, we haven't had any foundational justification for this motion.
Which address do you live at?
I beg your pardon?
Which address do you live at?
Number 67.
On Hillier Road.
Hillier Road. I am very fond of my home. I'm very fond of Gawler. I'm familiar with Gawler's history. I'm familiar with the street's history. I'm familiar with the history of the streets around my area. I love it very much. I'm a member of the local historical society. The street itself is named after the Hillier family, Murray Clifford Hillier, who in the 50s had a member of council who in the 50s had our street bitumenised. As someone that loves Gawler, I see it as a beautiful but highly undervalued place. I see it as a place with graffiti. I see it as a place with squalor, hoarding, vagrancy, roads in disrepair, and I'm appalled that my money would be wasted in this pointless exercise. I'm appalled. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregory. Thank you. Could I have Mr. Chris George now, please?
Good evening. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to address the committee tonight. As you said, my name's Chris George, and I suppose I'm here. We've been employers, my family's been employers and business people in the town of Gawler since 1958. So we believe we have an insight into Gawler, an insight into its needs, especially in the car parking sense. Fortunately, in 1958, there weren't many car parking issues. I think probably the biggest issue was where Brian Samble was going to tie up his horse at the Kingsford Hotel on a Friday night, but there weren't many cars around in those days. But now we do have a significant issue in terms of car parking in Gawler. We put forward a submission as part of the recent car parking survey, and I'd just like to quickly summarise that submission. I believe you have it in front of you tonight, but I just wanted to reiterate some of the points in there. Just a question on notice. We would be interested if there is such a document to understand the picture of the Gawler locality, a map, if you like, with a demographic of the car parking situation, the time car parks, how many car parks are in Gawler. I believe in 2001 there was a car parking strategy done, and there was such an analysis done then. I think that'd be useful now to see such an analysis of how many 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour car parks, all-day car parks, and the location of all those car parks. In terms of our submission, we followed the objectives of the car parking survey and the strategy that was put forward. One of the first objective was the suitability of existing car parking provision. We believe that there needs to be, in terms of employee car parks in areas away from the customer car parking areas. So we think there needs to be designated areas for employees. Employees need to be looked after, obviously. As I said, we've been running businesses in Gawler for 60 years, and we understand the employees are the lifeblood of our businesses as well as customers. And we need to look at both of those opportunities. We have identified, as I believe council have in the past, a number of areas that could be utilised for additional car parking, but also employee car parking. Goose Island comes to mind as potentially a good one for employee car parking. Could be bitumised or some sort of hard surface and security provided and all those sort of things. We also believe that the council administration car park on High Street is a great opportunity for employee car parking because it's away from the CBD, but close enough to be able to, far enough away for customers to be able to park closer, but far enough away for employees to be able to walk to work. As we all know, the two key things we believe about car parking is we need turnover and we need convenience. And that's what we think should be the highlight of this survey going forward. The second objective was the identification of strategic sites to assist with catering for future demand. Again, Goose Island, we think, is a classic opportunity there. The other opportunity we see is that existing car parks could be near enough to doubled in size with the provision of what we call multi-deck or single-deck car parks. There's a good example in Glenelg on Partridge Street in Glenelg, where it's a concrete deck at one level, and then it has a ramp up to the concrete deck, and it has low-level, low-design paddling around that. So I think it's a fairly economical way to provide double the car parking on some of these sites. And if you think about Gawler, the Finnis Street car park, what I call the Woolworths car park there in Finnis Street next to P&R Electrical, could be a good site for that. Reed Street car park behind Woolworths, another good site. The NAB site on Todd Street, the council car park opposite that on Todd Street North, behind the pharmacy there. The council car park, as I mentioned, it could be a great opportunity to multi-deck car park there to double the size of the car park there. And then there's other commercial sites like potentially Dan Murphy's, Kingsford Hotel, other commercial businesses that could be encouraged to look at putting a multi-deck car park in somehow. What I probably should have said at the beginning is that our concern for the CBD of Gawler is that, and it's a good thing in a way, is the growth of satellite areas around Gawler, Springwood, Gawler Green, Roseworthy. They're going to take customers away from the CBD of Gawler, and that's a great thing for the growth of Gawler, but we just need to make sure that the CBD, as the lifeblood of Gawler, continues to flourish and just has that convenience and the turnover of car parks. One of the other objectives was a vision for the potential requirements of additional car parking in Gawler. We believe potentially that the multi-level car park in Gawler has the potential for a 5th level. I think we believe it was designed for another level on top of that car park there. While I'm talking about that car park, we actually believe that car park, at the moment, it's got a mixture of timed and all-day car parking. We think that should be predominantly or 100% timed parking. It's such a great location for customers that it shouldn't have employees parking in it. With the other thing we think about that car park is it's underserviced in the fact that it hasn't got a lift. I don't know anyone that would walk with a groceries or a trolley any further than the first floor, the ground floor, sorry. Or if you're at She's Apples at that level, you might walk with your groceries. But the levels 2, 3, and 4, I think they are in the middle there, they're just not going to be used by shoppers because you wouldn't push a trolley up the ramp and you wouldn't carry the groceries up the stairs. So we think the investment in a lift in that car park is essential. But another objective was the identification of areas which are disadvantaged from shortfall in car parking. I think the southern end of Murray Street is significantly disadvantaged. There's some all-day car parking on Julian Terrace behind the Kingsford Hotel and Steinborner's area there and Dan Murphy's. But the other side of the street, there's a problem with car parking other than Phoenix Plaza. And I believe there could be a development in the future in that area. I think someone's bought those shops, 6 or half a dozen shops across from the Kingsford Hotel. Again, in the planning and the development approval and of that site, there could be some foresight in terms of how car parking could be accommodated, again, with multi-deck car parking potential. One of the other objectives was the advice on the appropriateness of the existing car parking fund. We applaud the current car parking fund. In fact, we are doing a development of the Light Square Medical Centre at Light Square there, and we paid a significant amount of money into the car parking fund happily. But what we would like to see is a plan for the money that goes into that fund. We'd like to understand how it's going to be used and how it is used, and see that detail and maybe have some input into that. And again, back to the lift in the multi-storey car park, we'd love our money that we put into the car parking fund to be used for that lift potentially. There was a question on the guidance in relation to the overall management of public car park spaces. We actually believe that all car parks in the CBD within 300, 400 metres of the shopping centre of Gawler should be timed. You know, what we're trying to attract customers. The survey showed that 80% of customers are here for between 0 and 2 hours in time. So we believe that they should all be 2 hours timed and get that turnover and that convenience that you'll get if you go out to Springwood or out to Gawler Green. At the moment, there seems to be a variety of 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours for all-day parking, and we can't really see a strategy or a rhyme or reason around that. So I think that kind of needs to be tidied up. There's a question on the review of the car parking rates within the planning and design code. I'm not sure if it's a council responsibility now. I think that might have gone to Plan SA, that the setting of the car parking rates. But as an example, we know now that the new rates for doctors' rooms, for example, which we have an interest in, are 4 spaces per doctor's room. And I'm not sure I understand where that's come from. You know, you've got a person in the doctor's room, obviously. You've got a person waiting normally. That's two cars, potentially.
Sum it up, please, Chris, about 30 seconds.
Yep. I'm not sure how they get to 4, but I'm not sure if that's a council thing or whether it's Plan SA responsibility. And the last one was a question of strategies for reducing car parking dependence in the town centre. Our points are, you know, the implementation of electric vehicle charging stations, end of trip facilities, toilet showers for people that ride their bikes to work, and secure push bike, scooter or motorbike bay areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your input tonight. That's what the open forum's about. It's been quite interesting. Some of the points of view have been excellent. Any councillors or mayor or deputy mayor, any conflicts of interest? Look, do none. Confirmation of minutes. Have a mover. Councillor Davies, second to Councillor Hughes. Any discussion? All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Business arising from the minutes? There be none. Righto, we'll now move on to item 7.1. We brought that item forward. Excuse me, Councillor Davies. Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I was thinking about moving it with an additional point, just that that staff investigate clearer signage for the unchanged roads. Just incorporating some feedback from residents there.
Mr. Bonnie, that's fine. Okay, any other question? So I have a mover, you're moving it?
Yeah.
I'll move Councillor Davies, seconder. Councillor Hughes, any other further discussion?
Oh, well, I'll speak to it.
Yeah, you can speak to it, yes.
Yeah, well, firstly, I'll just to make the council process clearer, this is something that there wasn't just an investigation of Hillier Road, there was just sort of a general review of duplicate street names, and there's about 10 in there. And currently the staff recommendation is that we don't change Hillier Road. So if this passes, then the road will remain unchanged. So just wanted to make it clear what's going on there.
The second wish to speak? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, just agreeing with Councillor Davies that this investigation was to go through the duplicate names roads. Occasionally as councillors, we actually do get complaints that ambulances or fire engines or emergency service vehicles have actually gone to the wrong, whether it's Evanston or Hillier for some roads. So that's why this investigation went ahead. I mean, this recommendation will mean that Hillier Road will stay the same the whole way through this motion, which is tonight. So yeah, thank you for coming out tonight. It's important that you do express your right. I'm sorry that you did and it is sometimes it's really a passionate topic when people do come to council. So I do thank you for your time for coming out tonight. I think it's important that you do come out. But this whole process was to go through those duplicate roads, and yes, as councillors, we do get complaints about duplicate roads within the area of council, and that's why this investigation went ahead. So yeah, I'm sorry you got upset about it, but yeah, the process and the recommendation not to change the Hillier Road is I think a fairly sound one, because especially with modern day GPS devices and everything else, there shouldn't be the misunderstanding that has occurred in the past, shouldn't happen in the future. And with emergency services, we are talking about people's lives and timeliness. So that's why it was so important to do. But yeah, just thank you again for coming out tonight.
Just a quick, you can't answer questions from the floor, sorry. Just thank you anyway, but no. Oh, Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. There seems to be just a slight breakdown in communication here, because the report that we're all voting on tonight, as Councillor Hughes and Davies did point out, was a recommendation to listen to the feedback, presumably from people in the gallery tonight and then some. Who have engaged in the community consultation process, which I really thank you for. And because you've engaged, council staff have turned around and said, all right, no worries, we're going to leave this as is. So that's what we're voting on tonight. And just again, as a matter of process, I'm probably going to get this process completely wrong, but there is a review that council is obligated to undertake at certain points of time. And, this is all a part of that, and multiple street names have been compared throughout. I think we saw tonight there's 22. And then some of the consultation that we have got back tonight is contrary to your experiences, which is completely fine. And there are some that are getting tweaked to suit the needs of those people on those streets. But just to reiterate that the needs of your community and your street is being listened to and abided by. So nothing will change. But again, thanks again for coming along.
Councillor Kosh.
Thank the residents of Hillier Road, Evanston, for coming in. And I just want to, again, just go back to what Councillor Hughes was saying. A lot of this revolves around emergency services, and we do get reports that emergency services go to the wrong addresses. And we were just concerned about that. That's our primary aim, is people's safety. But, we've listened to the feedback. We've got the officer's report. So in this case, your road will stay the same. That's how, that's why I voted for it originally, to do the investigation. I was concerned about people's safety. So, yeah, so hopefully it should be all fine. Now with the modern GPSs and everything else, and hopefully people put the right address in their little GPS. And yeah, hopefully everything's okay. Thank you.
Mayor Karen.
Thank you, Chair. And just like to thank everyone for coming along. It really does help when you come along. I know it gets very passionate and it can be quite frustrating, but it does help the committee make good decisions. So thank you for coming along, everyone who spoke tonight. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Can I put the motion? You wish to speak again? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. I'd now like a motion from the floor, please, to bring forward 8.2 first and then 8.1. Yes. Bottom block, yes. I want to move my block, please. I bring 8.2 forward first, discuss that, then 8.1.
I'm happy to move that way, Chair.
Have a second, the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, we're now discussing 8.2. You have the floor, ladies and gentlemen. Councillor Davies.
So it says that Mr. Chris George will give a brief presentation. Was that what we got at the open forum already? Okay.
I'm in your capable hands, ladies and gentlemen. What would you like to do? Councillor Fraser?
I'd like to thank Mr. George for his presentation. As far as I agree with a lot of the things that you said, well, most of the things that you said actually. As you're talking about Goose Island and staff parking there, it's a bit of a sore point with me because at Christmas time, council actually did that. They actually put parks there. They asked the businesses in town to ask their staff to park there. And I think we had, you know, maybe 2 or 3 people, none parked there. Okay. And so nobody used it. And, you know, it's only a matter of walking across the bridge and they're in the CBD. And so nobody used it. Everybody seems to want to park right outside their door. And it's really, I think in that case, it's really up to the businesses to direct their staff to park somewhere else to make it easier. And as far as the timing goes in the street, we try and have sort of a balanced thing because some people might go to the hairdressers and then go and have a coffee or go out for lunch. So they're going to want more than 2 hours and that can become a problem. But at the same time, we have to sort of have a balance and a variation. So that's why there's the different timings. And some of the businesses have asked for a shorter period of time because they might be just a takeaway place. They just want people to pull up, grab what they want to go have and go. So we try and accommodate as much as we can on that basis. But thank you anyway.
So you're moving the motion, Councillor Fraser? You're moving that motion? Yes. Sorry. Yep. Mayor, you're seconding the motion then?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd also echo some of what Councillor Fraser said. Thank you, Chris, for coming along and Humphrey for coming along. I've written a number of notes. I think Di's right about the Christmas opportunity to park in Goose Island, but I think having a strategic overview helps. And I think some of your points really fed into, you know, having a strategic overarching process where all timed parking, employee parking here, not here, and then business owners will be forced to tell their employees to park there and it will be packed. So as much as it sounds a bit autocratic, I think there needs to be some significant policy change and also working with the local business groups, which I'm sure, Chris, you can assist with, and Humphrey, in getting them on board to really have an overarching policy and looking at strategic opportunities for multi-storey car parks where those gaps are, so that, as you say, the town centre continues to have real relevance to not only Gawler people, but the whole region, people that come down from Clare, etc., that shop in Gawler, and we know that happens. So lots of really, really good ideas. And I think we can take them away, and I look forward to certainly working with you guys and hopefully putting some of this into practice. Wouldn't that be amazing? And yeah, certainly the car parking fund is an interesting one. I applaud you. I've said that to you before. I applaud you both for committing to the car parking fund and paying your dues, but I really do hear what you say about understanding where the money goes as well. I think that's part of that communication, that transparency around where that goes. Certainly we invested in the Finner Street, which was an incredibly good investment at the time, and it's coming, putting runs on the board, really, isn't it? As far as having a really effective car park. But yes, we all-day car parking, if you can get it, it's pretty nice to have it undercover and it's free. So yeah, I don't agree with that either. I think we brought that up last council term, Councillor Fraser, about timed car parking and the Finnis Street car parking. So really great ideas, and yeah, I think this is a good way forward. So thank you, Chair.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm just so proud to sit here tonight to hear the people of the gallery so passionate about their town. When I heard Gregory Linda there say about, you know, what's going on, I'm afraid what I've found in the last few years is that the community has dropped back and coming and telling us as councillors what it should be happening. And we work with that. We are listening, and I think that's important. And for the Godfather and his son to come here tonight and tell us about this car parking, you know, there's nothing more than Humphrey George has done in this town with business and so forth. And now to hear Chris talk about this so positive, as Councillor Fraser said, you know, we said, right, come on. I mean, pushed and pushed and pushed. Goose Island, that's where the dogs poo. There's nothing else happening there. They cut the grass. It's around about $2.5 grand a year to cut grass. It could be a perfect car park, done in a way that can suit the environment. I mean, you go down around a bit further, all my beautiful pepper trees have been dug out and they've got lovely parklands there and so forth. I'm not sure the cars are going to be parked there, but the Goose Island, and as what Chris has said, his passion is coming out. And we must look at this, especially south of Gawler, down there where the it floods occasionally, but if you can't start your car and get it out before the flood gets there, there's something wrong. All those areas shouldn't be vacant. They should be for people to be able to park. I'm also a great believer in paid car parking. When I go to Adelaide, you know, like you don't get any free car parking down there, or you get a ticket or whatever. So it may well be to get another floor on the, as Chris said, on the 4-storey car park. It may well be that we need to look at paid car parking in these type of facilities. But I ask all councillors to support this, and for when else people come along to this council and put these fantastic ideas forward, I please support it.
Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thanks as well. On Friday, I had a day off and I spent a lot of it on the Nord Parade and actually watched how the 2-hour car parking worked. The first 2 hours of their multi-level car park is free, and it seemed to really push people through. The main street of the Nord Parade, my parents were traders there for nearly 40 years on the parade, so I know it really well. But yeah, it's just amazing how many people and how full the parade was. It's probably the busiest I've ever seen the parade. It's doing really well, and our main street in Gawler is doing really well. We don't have the parking issues that the parade does, luckily, and for years the traders have made sure that their staff don't park anywhere near the main shopping precinct of the Nord Parade, which I think is an issue that Gawler does have, that there are a lot of people that work in Gawler and do take up parks close to the centre. So I think that's something that really needs to be addressed. Also, looking at the survey, a lot of the surveys the Adelaide City Council have done over the years, and some of the Main Street conferences that I went to previously, the surveys are actually done on the perspective of the shopper and from the shopper's point of view, and they were actually surveying people that actually brought goods from different shops and actually getting them to fill out the survey. So the surveyors were actually stopping people in the street and actually asking them where they parked, how they found the park, and how many metres they were actually prepared to walk to get to there. And it was quite incredible how long the distance was that they were prepared to walk in. This was Adelaide CBD, so it was quite a long distance that they were prepared to walk. But I thought it was really good way of doing a survey as from the perspective of the successful business people that are actually selling products to people in the street. I think that's overlooked sometimes. And I think with this survey, it did probably heavily reflect on people that spend every day in the Main Street area of Gawler. I do, because I'm lucky enough to work in mainly from Gawler myself. So I do see how the car parking works and how a lot of business people and workers do actually park close to their businesses, and where the experiment we tried with Goose Island I think is worth doing again, but we really need the support of the business owners to push the business owners and their staff to actually park further away from the main street. And I do like how the 2-hour car parks seem to work really well on the North Parade on Friday. I just was quite surprised that the turnover of cars and the people seem to work really well. It's not a really very big multi-level car park on
30 seconds,
Foodland so to actually see that turnover with cars so quickly and so often, where they get the first 2 hours for free, I think that works really well. And it just pushes that car park, which is so close to the main street, really efficiently. So I think it's good. Also like the fact about the car parking fund, I think that needs to be transparent, as the Mayor said. So I think that's good feedback. And yeah, I think it's very important that we get as much feedback as we can from traders all the time. So thank you for coming in. Thanks.
Councillor Shanks. I'm sorry.
That's right. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, I'd like to thank you as well, Chris and Humphrey, for coming in. I think sometimes we're tasked with maybe solving a problem that the room doesn't fully understand, because we're not the kind of stakeholders that families like yours have in the town, and tapping into the wealth of knowledge that people like yourself have is going to be the difference of getting this right or wrong. So yeah, with the way that this motion sits, we are noting the report, but also just taking on some of the feedback. And a couple of the points that you raised, I'm very interested in, and actually do align with some of the thoughts that I've had previously. And being in my first term of council, I've come into this problem, and I'm noticing this problem be more and more complained about as Gawler grows, which makes perfect sense. It's just, how we solve that, and definitely taking on board the car parking fund. It is actually one of my sort of sore points, I guess, on having a car park fund with no outcome. It was sort of itemised tonight where the Finnish Street car park was a good outcome, which I completely agree with. And there's probably some more work we can do to really get to a point of fully realising that asset for the town. But when that was the goal, that made sense. Right now, we have, I think, I can be corrected, but just over 450 grand in a fund with no outcome like a Finnish Street car park. I, like you, would like to see another level. I, like you, would also like to see a multi-level car park put in behind the NAB bank. That's one of my prime go-to little quick spots I get to. The Christmas Goose Island solution, I'm not ready to put that to bed yet, because we do sort of say we want businesses to utilise this, and this is why we did it, and we want them to come along for the ride. But the window of opportunity there was one go at it. I think we need to be consistent. We do have community members here tonight that there might have been a bit of a breakdown in communication. Did that happen with the business owners for those periods that Goose Island was activated? Potentially. Being consistent, I think, is going to really get that messaging out and hopefully encourage business owners to engage with us, not just us engage with them, and tell us what their expectations are with their rates, their separate fund contribution into the car park fund. So again, I thank you for reiterating your points of view quite well in this report, and I do hope staff take on board some of these responses, because they could quite easily be the help that we need in shaping a strategical outcome here.
Any other further discussion? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I think car parking is an interesting one. I don't think this will stop being discussed in the next 100 years of council, but you know, all we can do is adapt to the times. I think there are always going to be situations where I think in the modern day, for example, something that we've been hearing from a few businesses is under the new model of a lot of home delivery, Uber and that kind of thing. They're not just pizza shops, but other places are saying, well, it'd be great if we could have, you know, some 15-minute or 5-minute car parks or that kind of thing to accommodate for the ability to just get in and out. You know, whereas there was a motion that I moved previously about the Finner Street multi-storey car park about its opening hours, because we had a nearby store, Tabletop Warfare, whose business model meant that people were staying there for 4 hours to play Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, and leaving at 9 p.m. and then finding that their car was locked in. And, you know, we just sort of have to adjust individually sometimes based on all of that. It's, yeah, I don't know, it is a tricky one because I think there are expectations for what Gawler Street car parking should be that are not necessarily the same expectations that you would have for other places. Like if you go to peak time Elizabeth Shopping Centre, for example, the car parking experience can be, you know, just drive around in circles for a while, park a car somewhere where you aren't going to remember where the car is, you know, walk to the shopping centre, you're on the wrong end of the shopping centre, walk another 10 minutes through it. But people are fine with that, you know, to an extent, because they're like, well, that's what a shopping centre is. You get to Gawler and it's sort of like, well, I want to park right outside the store, but there's someone, you know, hogging the spot. You know, and there's sort of a different expectations there, maybe with main streets and that sort of thing, but maybe some of that can be solved with improved signage about locations and other things. But yeah, overall, it's something that I think we'll continue to look at.
Any further discussion? You wish to speak again, Mr. Councillor Fraser, or we put them?
There's lots I could say, but no, thanks. I'll let it go.
Okay. Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Now we move on to 8.1, and I think Mr. Kelly's got a presentation before that. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, when you're ready.
Okay. I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to present tonight, but also for the project that we're delivering on behalf of the council, is to look at the...
Put the microphone up a bit, please, mate.
I'm a bit taller than some of the others.
Yeah, the other slightly.
Okay, so is that better?
Thank you.
Normally I'm accused of being too noisy. So to do a project to look at the green wedge between Adelaide and Gawler and you know, potential uses for that land that fit in with the planning requirements of council. I'd start this presentation just by saying that we're not planning people. I come from an agricultural soil science background, so we're taking a land capability assessment approach to the development of different land uses that may fit the planning requirements of council. So what we started off with is we're doing a brief literature review to go through the work of others, particularly Jensen Planning, and going through some of the old reports that were valid for the Northern Adelaide Plains. I worked on the Northern Adelaide Plains for 12 years, undertaking the sustainability studies for the Virginia Pipeline Scheme. So I have a lot of knowledge around that land use. Now, these maps aren't really relevant. They're just there as examples. We'll do a desktop study. One of the things about the Northern Adelaide Plains and this greater Gawler region, there is no more studied soils in South Australia. So the information that we can get from a desktop study is very, very good and very accurate. So we'll look at 42 different soil properties, and we'll put those together with the cultural characteristics of various farming systems, and then have a look at what comes out of that. And then we'll select a number of crops and actually go through and have a look at that with respect to whether the land, you know, whether the change of land use is warranted. we examined sort of 3 land uses and 5 farming crops. So the 3 land uses will be broadacre agriculture, the grazing, cropping type systems. Then we'll go to broadacre vegetable, horticultural, annual horticulture. And then we'll look at greenhouse production in probably polyhouses, the large-scale high-tech greenhouses like Divine Right. You can sit them anywhere, providing there's water, they're just going to be profitable. So you don't need to worry too much about those. We'll establish what we've started to do is build a tool to look at them economically so that we can look at the different crops. At the moment, we've got about 13 crops in there. We've put a few extra crops in because we think it's worth having a look at. 12%, is it enough? I had a look around and that's what they're saying, that if there's a fair return on farming investment today, so 12%. And can this land be used to be profitable for that reason? So really the argument is about, it's a bit of a binary argument around, is the land retained as a green wedge, in which case you need some sort of economic return off of it or some sort of production off of it, or is it going to be best opened up to different land uses, most likely development of housing. So we look at suitability, size of existing parcels, impact of the peri-urban interface. It's always a big issue. It's a big issue on the NAP. It's a very big issue in the Adelaide Hills. When people come out there and on a particular day, they go and look at their new property and it's all quiet and peaceful, and they only to find out later on that somebody's going to harvest grapes or something with next door to them at 2 o'clock in the morning. They lose their sense of humour, apparently. So regional infrastructure is, it does the region support either one of these developments? Is it, would it require really significant infrastructure change that may be inside the scope or outside the scope of council? And water availability is a big issue, and willingness and capacity to pay for water. There's always big issues of water on the Northern Adelaide Plains, and there's a couple of projects out here that haven't gone very well. So there is a fair swag of water. There's currently 10 gigalitres of water that would be available if somebody wanted it. The final report, one of the things that we've spent quite a bit of time on to start off with is there's no definite straight answer to the question, should it be retained as a green wedge or should be made available for housing? I think it's going to be a bit of a mix of these things. What are the risks of more intensive subdivision? We'll look at those as well at the same time. So they might be, if you start creating rural living allotments, do they become sort of junkyards of the future? Looking forward, does change reflect the primary strategy? What is the land? Is the land of significance agriculturally? Will new development be consistent with the land values? Will it be needed for competing development? Is the land significantly agricultural? And does changing the land use threaten the existing uses, right? And that's a particularly interesting one because the Northern Adelaide Plains has particular problems with rising water tables, and it could be a problem that rears itself if there's further residential development, to the east of where they're already got problems. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Kelly? Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a horticultural background, so I've got some horticultural questions. So, the water we're looking at, you're looking at reused water, are you? And what about sodic soils? Are you going to look at that with it?
My research background is in management of saline and sodic soils.
Yep.
It's probably the easiest thing to manage if I was a farmer and I had to pick an issue. I'd pick sodic soil.
Yep, yep.
Because it's mathematical in nature.
Yes, yep.
Do the assessment, apply the gypsum, it's no longer sodic. Okay,
fantastic. You're looking at some broadacre crops. Are you looking at any alternative crops, like native foods, for example? Because, they're the flavour of the month and it's good returns there.
There's some very good returns. Bush tomatoes at the moment attract around $45 a kilo. So there's nothing else in the marketplace that's bringing that sort of money. Tremendous opportunity. The fastest growing horticultural venture in Australia is table grapes, export table grapes. And that's good because what the Adelaide Plains doesn't need is to grow any more tomatoes. So, there's a lot of things here. We're not going to do the definitive horticultural study, we're going to look at things that people are likely to do and say, are those parcels of land viable in an agricultural sense, or does it provide you the tools to make the decision? Does it make sense to subdivide these into housing lots going forward? Because people can't get the return on the investment.
I suppose I'm just sort of just concerned that we're going to look at alternative crops other than broadacre and tomatoes and greenhouse.
Yep.
In the submissions, there's some, I suppose there's a bit of a thread there that people have actually had production out there, they're getting close to retirement, and potentially they see that as a superannuation, or, you know, their futures to sell the land. And if they sell it with subdivision rights, potentially it's worth more money. What my concern is about the future horticulturals or agriculturals that are coming through our system that have different ideas, using different techniques, etc., etc. Will we be catering for the future horticulturalists and agriculturalists that are coming through our universities now?
That's a bit of a question for the council itself, and probably one that we're not going to answer.
Okay.
What we're actually going to look at is we'll look at you know, the value and the returns on what we think can happen to the land. It's a really simple thing. The Northern Adelaide Plains is a great production region. If you look Australia-wide, it is a very, very good production region. You know, back when I was working on the Northern Adelaide Plains, it was something like there was $75 million worth of farm produce produced farm gate. That was value added to 225 million in the region, and it had a value to the state of 350 million. The Virginia Pipeline Scheme was supposed to create 5,000 new jobs on the Northern Adelaide Plains. So if there's water and land and opportunity here, is it worthwhile keeping the green wedge? I'm not swayed either way. And one of the things that we haven't done is we've made a point of not reading the submissions made by people, and we won't read those until we get through the process. So we're not swayed early on by, you know, other people's thinking. We'll do it quite clinically, and then we'll go back through the submissions.
Well, it's just that it was in your brief.
Yeah.
You haven't read the brief. Okay. Okay, fine.
Any other questions, Councillor?
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, just on that, there's yeah, I mean the Cutler region there's a lot of small landowners, so to actually subdivide it, you know, and also get infrastructure would be quite difficult. Are you going to cover any of that in your report?
Yeah, we will look at that. We'll look at those types of things, because some of the stuff that we'll be looking at is that we were asked some years ago to do for a developer who had bought a lot of land in the region, and he wanted to do something with the land prior to developing it. And one of the issues he had was, you know, it was just sitting there as agricultural land and he was getting no return on it. And we looked at an opportunity of him being able to subdivide that down into smaller lots. So a 6 hectare lot would have a 2,500 square metre, sorry, 25,000 square metre greenhouse on it that would provide a really significant return for any family unit, right? And so that was really doable. It was doable. It was it was a good outcome. So we will put some alternative ideas up there. I think the job for us, the way we've read the brief and what we're going to do, is to provide you with as many options as we can, so that you can look at that in terms of your planning. As I said, I'm not a planner. I'll put a bunch of options in front of you, and then at the end of the day, it'll be up to council to make their decision about which direction they go.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, one more. Just whether you're also like a lot of the residents of Gawler actually value the aesthetics and the open space as well, whether you're going to be looking at any of that, or that side of you know, that in a way the buffer or separation that sort of makes Gawler that, you know, best of town and country, where we do have that. And real estate agents have actually said it gives, you know, a percentage on the value of properties in, you know, in Gawler of actually, you know, having that zone, whether that's going to be covered in any way.
I'm probably not the best person to cover that, because I'm a soil scientist at the end of the day, so I look at things very analytically. So I love a number and I love a spreadsheet. The question I would ask, just when we were asked about this project, was there was a lien or a development caveat put over the Virginia pipeline scheme to protect the pipeline scheme originally, so that it wouldn't get developed, so that the developer, Clive Wright, could actually get a return on his investment. But in the meantime, you know, we've seen the city grow, it's none of par, it just keeps coming out and out and out. I don't know that it would be in the best interest of Gawler. It was really interesting listening to the the businessman talk about the region and how he saw the town and the, you know, the points of difference that Gawler has. I found that really interesting, and I suspect that somewhere down the track we'll be asking, you know, the team that I have working on this will be asking the question, is this valuable? Should this be protected going forward? And we might make commentary to that, but the commentary will be to council. So the commentary will be to council that we think that this is highly valuable, and here's our reasons for thinking it's highly valuable. And then it's going to be up to council to make their decisions around that as rightly it should be. But it was really interesting. I missed one point that you made about the people who want to retire and get off of their properties. I've been on the Northern Adelaide Plains a fair while now, and I know Gawler's not really the Northern Adelaide Plains, but look, it's joined at the hip, let's face it. I've seen land values just skyrocket in the region. You know, some of the, if there was a development by Seabreeze over on the old Copernapra farm, and that land sold for $3,000 a hectare. And now, if you could buy that for $20,000, $30,000 a hectare, I'd be very surprised. So those people who have bought properties out here years and years ago and are looking to retire, they've got a pretty good return on their investment without it going to real estate, to housing. So I think there needs to be a balance there between the community needs and individual needs, and I think that'll come out of what we're doing.
Councillor Hughes, you have another question?
It's probably more, I mean, some of the things that we're hearing is that we've already sort of got 18 years of residential supply for housing in Gawler already without any new greenfield development as well. So will you be sort of looking at, Joe, that side of things as well as part of the plan?
We will have a look about and see what, but look, we'll pick that up out of the report, you see. So the report's already flagged, some of that. So we'll pull that out of the reports and put it into one document so that you have something that you can work from and reflect from. And the way we do this is we like to be very open about it. We'll make some presentations of what we find along the way. If you don't like it, come back and ask us more questions, or if you think that we've missed something, because you'll know much more about this Gawler region than I can learn in the months that we'll be doing this work. So I think it's incumbent, the way I view this project, it is a project that all of us have signed on for, and I really value your input as we go and the input of the community.
Any other questions of Jim? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Councillors and Mayor, we have a recommendation. The Mayor, you wish to move that recommendation? Wish to speak to it? And we have a seconder. Councillor Koch, you wish to speak to it? Any other further discussion about that motion? Councillor Hughes first, and Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this. I do also, I think, this is already underway, but I also do note that, we've got to actually work in with the state government, with their changes in legislation and policies and procedures, and hopefully, we're not going to end up duplicating or needing to do something that the state government hasn't sort of told us will be needed in the future. So I'm hoping that this study sort of will feed into that process. I don't know whether Ryan can give any update tonight, but I just am concerned whether we are sort of putting the cart before the horse, depending on how that legislation's going as well, because I think in some ways we don't want to be the first one making sort of bids to the state government, whether they've got a process in place, and making sure that we follow that process is what we're concerned.
Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I think it's I'll support the motion, and I think it's very important we do look into this. You know, we've had this come to the chamber sort of quite regularly, I guess, over the years, and there's definitely some conflicting views. I do like what the presenter, Mr. Kelly, said tonight, just about, you know, being very analytical. I too like facts and data, and I do like trying to make decisions based on that fact and data. There's sometimes some, what I've noticed about the debate is there's two options. We do nothing and keep a buffer, or we subdivide and we're going to get down to 300 square metre blocks. Now, I think there's so much in between options there that we need to unpack, and I do like the fact that that is acknowledged, and I look forward to what comes back here, because, you know, we do drive around those areas as elected members, as members of the community, and I do talk to some of the ratepayers around there as well, and some of them do feel like they're being left behind because of the zoning. You know, we see on the other side of Gawler, in a neighbouring council, Light Council in Gawler Belt, it's my opinion that some of those block sizes have been quite successful, and have provided a bit of a border to the town and entrance from that way. And I see some practices there that maybe could be implemented here, and might sort of promote doing away with some of the car bodies, the caravan bodies and everything that are in some of these parcels of land that are in a space that, you know, could be arguably not activated. So just really delving into it and seeing the options across the spectrum as a whole, I think is the right move as a council and as a community to be doing. So I look forward to the report to come.
Any further discussion? The mover quite happy for me to put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Right, now we go back to 6.1 now, I think, ladies and gentlemen. 7.2 wasn't it? 7.2, sorry. Off track. We have an officer's recommendation there. The mayor just wishes to speak, removing option 2.
Option 2. I'm happy to move that way and speak to it if I can.
Yes.
Yep, so option 2.
Yep.
So remove option 1. So if I can speak to it, I think this has taken quite some time to come back. I think more than 12 months. In fact, it may even be 2 years. I could lose track of time. This has been quite a contentious issue, putting plexiglass or I think mesh came up earlier. But however, I think that the cost-effective option 2, which means a barrier of 1.1 metres high, and installing cyclist dismount signs, I think is really sensible going forward. It is still a really tight space, and even with the barriers, the road barriers, they're quite scratched from all the trucks that bang into them. So I think that this is a sensible way forward. Also with plexiglass, you can see the heritage elements of the bridge, which I think is really, really important. And people want to see the heritage elements of this bridge. I do note some opportunities to ensure that plexiglass can be cleaned from graffiti. So we'll see how that goes. Or I believe it when I see it, to be honest. But yeah, look, it is a way forward, and we do need to bring it up to code. So yeah, I think this is a sensible way forward, and I hope people support it. Thank you.
Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hughes, you wish to speak?
Yeah, just briefly agree with the Mayor's comments on this. It has been a long time coming. It is to meet safety requirements, unfortunately, because the gaps currently will allow children to fall through to the river below. It doesn't meet current standards. It is unfortunate, and yeah, I agree that it will probably be slightly controversial as well. But we do need to meet the safety standards and put the plexiglass there in case something does happen in the future. So I'm happy to support this motion.
Councillor Kosh first, then Councillor Fraser, and then Councillor James. Oh, one's still on. David. Sorry, Councillor Hughes, turn your mic on, please.
Look, I won't be supporting this. I've never been a supporter of the plexiglass. My concern is that it would look out of place. It would be against the character of the bridge. It'll be graffitied. It'll be scratched. It will just be a magnet for everybody to vandalise it. My option would have been the mesh and the bars. And now that we know that we can't put the flexi panels up high, which was always the argument, we needed to put it up high. That's why I suppose we went with it. And a good German friend said that it's just too expensive. And now we're asking people to just dismount off their bikes anyway, because it's pretty narrow anyway. To my thinking, that the mesh, revisiting the mesh and the railing at the bottom and potentially at the top would be a better solution, because I think when I've seen the black mesh on bridges, it becomes invisible. And it does, I think it does retain the heritage fabric and characteristics of those bridges. And I think it's a better solution, because all I can see is it being graffitied and vandaled and damaged from day one. Whereas I think if you had the mesh, people would just go, oh, yep, it's mesh. I can still see the bridge. I can still appreciate the bridge, and we'll probably just leave it alone. So I'm not going to vote for this, and hopefully we might be able to change the motion. Thank you.
Just welcome Councillor Val to the chamber. Councillor Fraser.
Yes, I won't be voting for this either. I actually think it looks terrible. When it was being discussed before, I wasn't on council by going by all the motions. So it was, I noticed that the fixtures for the are all on the outside of the bridge. And if you had mesh, it would be better on the inside of the bridge. And as Councillor Kosh said, you wouldn't even see it. You can have, there's quite good meshes around that you could put up, firm, strong ones that you could put up. And I think it would look a lot better. I just don't like the appearance of this at all. And I think you just lose all the heritage part of the bridge.
Councillor Shanks.
So to be honest, I thought I was going to be the only one making these points tonight. So I'm glad to hear that yeah, there's similar sentiment in the chamber. Plexiglass, yes, has a place on a public bridge. No. Well, there is perforated mesh, as Councillor Kosh pointed out, and Councillor Fraser as well, that we use in a commercial sense that, yes, gives you exactly what you need on a code point of view. It also allows a good breeze through on narrow areas. Plus, it doesn't get scratched and eventually turn smoky. We've all experienced it, I'm sure. Just go around to anywhere where they've had it for a couple of years and you will see what ends up happening. Dismounting off a bike, I think that makes perfect sense anyway, regardless if you're able to get the height, just because of the narrowness of it. I think it just makes perfect sense to get cyclists to dismount there. But yeah, for the impact of what the plexiglass will have, yeah, it will look fantastic once it's first done, but it won't last. Perforated mesh that's powder coated properly, even if it is scratched or graffitied or whatever, it's a low maintenance cost. And I don't think it will sacrifice the integrity of the look of the bridge at all. Yeah, so these options to me have left other ones unexplored. And I think we do need to go back and yeah, back to the drawing board a little bit with this one, unfortunately, because yeah, option 1 and 2 just aren't good enough for what we need to get done there, unfortunately. And there's definitely better solutions out there.
You want Lee to speak again? The question, yes.
As I said before, the fixtures are on the outside of the bridge. Is it possible to take them off and put them on the inside of the bridge for the mesh? So the mesh is not on the outside, it's on the inside.
Who can answer that? Answer that? And the microphone? Take your mask off here.
Hello, is that working? Oh, it is. Hello. So the fixtures that are on there were put back on when they did Murray Street Stage 6, where this plexiglass solution initially had been endorsed and was going to go ahead. But there's no reason why they can't be taken off. Obviously, it's going to have a cost, and then it's standing back the actual structure of the bridge to sand it back and then paint it. But yeah, absolutely can do it. And that's the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, why is this needed? I don't think I've really heard. Is it? I've lived in Gore 78 years. It's been there 78 years, and there's never been a problem. Well, we're going to turn that into a playground so kids can sort of spend a bit of time there. I mean, you know, where did this come from? Just more money, isn't it?
But it's from the budget. Yeah, sorry, you wish to answer. Excuse me. Excuse me.
So Deputy Mayor Samble, so because the bridge was upgraded as part of Murray Street Stage 6, once an entity has upgraded a structure, it is then required by law to meet the current standards. So the status of the bridge as it is classed as it's a climbing risk and a fall risk, as a small child could theoretically fall through those gaps, as someone could also climb up along the along the structure and then, you know, do the unthinkable. So that's why we now have to do it.
Thank you. Any other questions? The mover wish to speak again? I'll put the motion as it stands. All those in favour? Against? It's lost. I'm back in your hands again. What would you like to do? Excuse me? Do you wish to defer the motion? Just defer the matter, or could I have a motion from the floor for that, please? So the Mayor's moved to defer the motion. Second, Councillor Koch. And future meeting. Yep.
That the matter get deferred pending a future report on mesh options that meet Australian standards that are deferred to a future IES meeting, with options for mesh treatment to the bridge, to the balustrade, I should say, of the bridge.
Balustrade, yeah.
Balustrade of the bridge. Balustrade of the bridge. Yeah. Mill, what's it called? The mill bridge.
Mill bridge, yeah.
Mill bridge. Mill, no, not mill in bridge, mill bridge.
And that's a mill in bridge.
Mill in bridge?
Yep.
Okay, Gawler Mill in bridge.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Everybody sure on the motion now?
I'm happy to move that way if you like.
Yeah, the Mayor's moved that way. Councillor Koch has seconded it. Any further discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Jenks.
Just to reiterate the point that there is 3 options where this can be installed. It can be installed outside, inside, and between the railing. So, you know, just to make that clear.
And the options,
Yeah, the options that are going to come through with the mesh treatment.
Yeah, we should-
You know, I don't know about everyone else, but I don't want to see a report that just sort of says, well, instead of plexiglass in this location, we're going to put mesh here. Or, you know, I think there's some outside the box thinking that will be complementary to the area. So just flagging that.
Okay, I think that's understandable. Yeah. Okay, put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Right. Next item on our list. Three. What about that? Yeah, the mayor's made that. Wish to speak to it?
Yes, please. Yeah, look, this is not an insignificant challenge. It's really interesting that overseas there are tourist trains going to wine regions, interstate. The Victorian government is investing in rail travel significantly, yet here in South Australia, it seems to be languishing. Certainly, and there's some really good people on this task force that are diligently working. It's a bipartisan group, includes people such as Ivan Venning. It's got the previous head of the Department of Transport, Rod Hook, who truly believes that it's possible. He's not an insignificant player, and it would be quite a boon for the region, and I think Gawler could benefit from this particular investment. So I think it is worth just continuing the conversation, and that's what this does. It doesn't really commit council to anything which is appropriate at this stage, and it just keeps us in the game so that we know what's going on. Thank you.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor, you wish to speak?
That I totally agree. And when you look at the train ride that the Lions Club run from Butte to Moonta, you know, and Pitcher-Ritchie, all those sort of things, you name it. And, you know, it's out there. Now, there seems to be a lot of confusion about this railway line thing, because it used to take some hugely heavy limestone down to Adelaide. But then they stopped it, and you couldn't take a rail carriage up it. I think there's a lot of things we still don't know about it. And with the team of people, and as Mayor Karen said, Rod Hook, you know, he's no mug, he's been around a long time. And I really think that Gawler should definitely support it. Barossa wants it, everybody wants it around the area. And I heard Phil Hoffman this morning saying the new GAN line to Clare. Well, I didn't know there was a train line went to Clare, but he talked about it for about 15, 20 minutes. So if the GAN's going to Clare, by hell, it must do a quick detour somewhere up the road there. But he said people want train journeys. Everybody says they want train journeys. To me, this is such a valuable asset, and we should support it.
Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. I mean, I do have concerns about what they may do to the Altona Bridge and the fact there's not a business plan yet, but I'm sure that all those issues could be worked through if there's enough goodwill amongst everybody. And I think it would be a benefit to Gawler. Thank you.
Yeah, I just add my 2 cents. I think when we spoke about car parking today, getting people into the CBD, what an asset this would be on the end. People ride their bikes or come from town and electric train, get onto this line train, as we used to call it nowadays, Brian. Someone used to get off there pretty bad, but yeah, it used to be a good trip when you sort of remembered it. And so no, I think it's a great asset for them, especially for the main street and the cafes and things. I think, and we've got that lovely Pioneer Park, that end of the street as well. Family areas, it's just, to me, it's a no-brainer, but I agree with the mayor it's not going to cost us any money to keep us in the loop. So I think it's quite good. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks, you wish to say anything?
Yeah, I concur. I completely support this. In my day, me and my mates are finding less and less minibus places that will take us around to the winery, so it'd be good to jump on a train and and use them. But no, in all seriousness, I look at it from a family point of view as well, on you know, taking my daughter and my wife just to be able to jump on a tourist train and go out to the Barossa. What we do for our train ride now is we jump on the Gawler line and head into Adelaide, and you know, that's not necessarily as good as an experience as it could be heading out to the Barossa. So definitely think there's some merit in this, and I think we should still be keeping some noise going in this space. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yeah. I can put the motion, the Mayor, you wish to speak again? All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Yeah. And the next motion is 7.4. Councillor Davies used to speak about or ask a question.
Well, I'd like to move a different version of this motion, which the point 2 says that that we continue to investigate public toilets at the multi-level car park at Finnish Street. So basically the option 2 on this one.
Say it again, please.
That staff to continue to investigate and the public toilet facility contained within just the rest of it is probably already in there.
So all the letters, staff continue to investigate options based on consideration of the findings all the way through.
Yeah.
Everybody understand that?
Except with, without remain closed at the end.
Yeah. To take off, remain closed. And just take that, I agree.
Well, you don't need the rest of the wording if
just leave 2 as it is.
that staff continue to investigate options is fine.
Yep. Could you turn yours up, please?
I appreciate if there was a bit more definitive conclusion to that part 2 in terms of continue investigation options. Is it for the purposes of opening toilets, or is it investigations for what purpose?
Just to keep.
Yes, to continue investigations into opening the toilets in terms of, you know, because I didn't want to just start with that we open the toilets, because I figured there would be several people that would object to that and say, oh, we don't know all the costings, you know, so I'm trying to word it in a way that's, you know, that we just continue along the route of looking into it.
So you're moving that way?
Yep.
As it is now?
If that's the intent, that we introduce the word staff continue to investigate options for the potential opening, yeah?
Opening of the public toilet facility containment. Oh, yeah, okay. Everybody happy with that? Have a second about it? Councillor Shanks, you wish to speak? Oh, sorry, you haven't finished it? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, just explaining this. Look, I think this is just something that I think having toilets there is valuable, and the car park, you know, is something that what's been mentioned earlier in the meeting that, you know, we've been investing in. This was a part of it. You know, we had toilets, we had, you know, stairwells cleaned every day and that kind of thing, you know, and we've lost some of that. And, you know, so bringing it back into order is not some grand new adventure. It's sort of saying, well, this is getting it back under operation again. And there was a list of toilets, you know, within a kilometre or so provided, but I think in terms of opening hours, I do think when it comes to weekends and after 5 p.m. on weekdays and that kind of thing, they're still not as airtight as we would like. So I think this is a valuable spot if we're able to deal with the issues. It's also one of the reasons why we're saying investigating options for potential opening Because if there are major issues in that, you know, we're simply not going to be able to do this from a security point of view, and the police say they won't deal with it or something like that. That's information we need to know before we go to the end. But I do think this is something worth continuing to investigate, which is why I've moved to this version of the motion.
Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support it. Look, I'll be honest. I think it's a little bit fumbly, if I'm being completely honest. But I understand why it's come about, because the original motion said that a further report be brought back on options for reopening the public toilets. We haven't received options. The option is we don't recommend reopening it. There's your option. Now that doesn't follow the intent of what Councillor Davies moved this motion for and Deputy Mayor Sambold seconded for, in my opinion, back in April. It's just come around and said why it's not open. We understand why it's not open. What are we going to do about it? We have an asset that's sitting there. We have a town that's not too impressed with us about public toilets. Agree to disagree, whatever. But we have an asset there that's a public toilet that's not being utilised, and the reasoning has been outlined in the report. There was no argument on why it was locked. Now we have it in writing, but I believe that this was the reasoning that will be given back in April. What are our options moving forward? You know, if we're not going to do it as a toilet, well, then we need to remove it as a toilet. Maybe we put in a lift shaft. Maybe we turn it into access for the multi-level, as we heard a business owner saying tonight. Maybe we use the car park fund to be able to do that on our car park. But at this point in time, locking a door to a council facility and saying we're never just going to use it again is not what we should be doing. What are our options? Where are our options? This isn't an option. This is just continuing as is. And we're not even using it for storage. We're not utilising it all. It's an underutilised asset. We need options moving forward. Unfortunately, Councillor Davies was left no choice. So, you know, he's moved an amendment here, which I'm happy to support. But I do hope that does get back to the intent of what this motion was before. Options A, B, C. Yes, if you want to leave C in as don't open it because of these reasons, that's fine. But what are our other options? Options is what this motion was calling for. And now Councillor Davies is having another crack at it. So hopefully next time we do get those options.
Any further discussion? The Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Good discussion. I think when you talk about options, I think the original motion was about options for a toilet, and you either have a toilet or you don't. We don't have to like the recommendation from staff, but staff are supposed to put up recommendations without fear or favour in their professional opinion. We don't have to agree with them, that's fine. I do like the idea of a lift shaft. I don't think we need another toilet. I think it's in the wrong spot. I don't agree. I think there's plenty of toilets in the town centre, both public and private. Plenty of opportunities for people to use really good quality toilets. So I don't think that's the issue. But certainly if we're going to get options back, then let's look at not just an option for a toilet, what about option for a lift? I think that's an excellent idea. The lack of a lift in the multi-level car park was brought up when we did the town centre framework, and the consultants were looking at how to make the town centre more streamlined and more accessible. And they looked at the multi-deck car park and they said it needs a lift. So it's not the first time that it's come up. So if we're going to look at options, yes, definitely, let's look at a lift, because I think then we would use that space. I think it is a waste of space at the moment. I don't agree that we need a toilet there. I think there is a safety issue, particularly at night, and I would be concerned about that. I would like to hear what the police say. I'm sure I probably could guess, but yes, at this stage I won't be supporting this, but certainly am keen on investigating a lift if that comes back. Thank you.
Councillor Kosh first.
Yeah, look, I won't be supporting this. I think we've already have the options, and the options really revolved around safety and sanitation, etc. I remember once visiting that toilet, and that was the last time I ever visited. It was disgusting. There was no way I was ever going to go back there or take my children there or my wife there. It is appalling. And to think that just by putting a camera there that we're going to solve all the problems, I agree with the report. It just isn't a viable spot to have a toilet. We've got plenty of other toilets. They're close to us. We're getting a new toilet opposite the post office. That's going to be fantastic. People are going to be very happy with that. There's the toilets at the visitor centre, just cut 300 metres away. The last thing you want is to have people going upstairs and getting into a vulnerable, unsecure, dark, dank spot and being, their safety threatened, their health and their safety threatened. So there's no way that I'll ever support reopening that toilet. It is disgusting. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering whether we could actually change some wording or whether I can put a variation up to actually look at the potential usage of the public toilet space. I think that's what we're all talking about here. And I've got nodding from the mover.
The mover's nodding.
Yeah. So whether the mover's happy to change that and add those words in about potential usage of the public toilet space, which is,
The Mayor wants to have a crack at this first, then I'll get back to the...
You could say on point 2, staff continue to investigate options. You could leave for potential opening and or other options utilising the space, utilising this particular space. Other, i.e., and we could put in there, i.e., a lift.
Or public toilet.
I.e. a lift. Well, it's, you could investigate it. But that way you made it really clear what we're thinking of, but there could be other options as well. But that, and or other options utilised by i.e. a lift. Yeah, that's my contribution.
Is the mover and the second, you must be happy with that? Hold on.
Yeah, look, I think Councillor Shanks is correct that my wording is sort of a little, like I'm just trying to figure out exactly what, how to word it. Because yes, part of it is also like, just the problem of, is it just are we just going to lock the door and then just have a closed toilet there? Or what are we going to do about it? And I did want to investigate that further. And one of those options might be toilets. One of those options, a lift would be fantastic. Lifts, it's very important to have lifts. But so yeah, if a more general motion that just comes back with future options for this, I'm happy with.
So you're happy with the motion as is now?
Yeah.
Is the seconder happy with that? Is there any further discussion? Excuse me, ladies. We're having a discussion there, or not? So any more discussion, Councillor Fraser?
I was just wondering whether you actually needed all public toilet facility. You just need staff continue to investigate options for the potential opening and or other options utilising the space, i.e. a lift within the multi-level car park at Finnis Street, Gawler. Don't know that you need all public toilet there.
Well, I mean, but that's one of the options, isn't it? Yeah. I think as it stands now, it's pretty well. We agree. So, yeah. Any other discussion? You wish to comment any further for a closed motion?
Yeah, look, I think happy with the way we've managed to wrangle this. Like, I think my main concern is just that we've just got sort of we opened the facility and then there was a space that we were like, oh, this isn't working out right now, and it was sort of left there. And I think let's continue to look into it.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Can I have that again? All those in favour, please? Against? It's carried. Thanks. 7.5. We have an office recommendation. Councillor Koch would move this one. You wish to speak?
Yes, I'm quite happy to support this motion and hope everyone else does. We are transitioning to electric vehicles around the world, and it is good to get in on the ground floor, on the front foot, all those other wonderful descriptions, because you need to trial electric cars, because the biggest issue with electric cars is people are concerned about range anxiety, or when or how to charge. So you need to allow people to drive the vehicles and experience that. And once they experience that, I found after 1 day or 2 days, the issue around range anxiety goes, and when they're shown how easy it is to charge, all those issues just go away. So I think this is a great move forward. And also it's nice to see the comparison between electric cars and internal combustion engines, and how the whole of life, they're basically on par at the moment. So that's fantastic. And in fact, it'll actually get better for electric cars when more cars come in and the prices of electric cars go down, because there's more manufacturing, the price of batteries, which is the biggest cost in an electric car, that'll start to come down with, with production going up and economies of scale. So that benefit would tip more and more to EVs. So it's good to get in early and get the work done, and also get those charging stations in place as well, because that also provides confidence for people. Because the last thing you want to do is think you're going to run out. But in reality, I've been driving electric cars for over 10 years. I've never run out. In fact, when I started driving electric cars, I had a bit of range anxiety that lasted for 1 day, and that was the end of it. So it really is a great move forward. So thanks to Tim and his team for putting this report together and doing and crunching all the numbers. It's a really good report. So I'd like everyone to support this. Thank you.
Second that, the Mayor, Mr. Sweet. Councillor Koch, you turn yours off.
Yeah, thank you. It is a fantastic report. Congratulations, Tim. You write really good. I really enjoy reading your reports. And this one I really understood for the first time, I think. So yes, it is. And I loved your vehicle cost comparison. I think that's really important work. It just shows where we've come with electric vehicles and the research around them, and the reality that this is our future. So I can't wait to see more electric vehicles in Gawler and also in the town of Gawler. I think that, yeah, it's just a no-brainer, and I'm sure everyone will support this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Tim again for the report. This is sort of goes on the great conversations we've been having in the climate emergency working group as well. And also I can thank Councillor Koch for the information that he brings in to the table with that as well. The comparisons and the range anxiety and all these little things that, you know, I'd never thought about. It has me looking at these items through a different lens. And it's quite good to be able to, you know, bring someone like myself along for the ride that's only used to driving diesel utes, you know. But now I'm going, oh, geez, I'd love to be able to change that out. What does that look like? But yeah, just being able to provide the comparisons for the people that might be against transitioning this way, you know, even if you're against the whole lowering emissions scheme, you're getting to a point where you go, well, don't agree with any of that. Do you agree in saving money? You know, I think we're starting to get closer to that sort of information, and I think these sorts of reports are tabling that moving forward. So yeah, I thank you for this, and I look forward to the conversation tomorrow night again at our working group.
Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, just quickly, yeah, the figures were fantastic and are really well presented. Just the fact, yeah, the on-road costs over time is so little, servicing is just so cheap. It just makes so much sense when you see figures like that. And yes, it's made Councillor Koch very happy, but yeah, it does highlight it really well. So it's great to see a report in that detail. So thanks.
Any other discussion? I'll wish to close the motion.
The last thing I want to say is, once people start driving an electric car, they enjoy it so much, they'll never go back to driving an internal combustion engine. It's just a fantastic experience, and they're safe. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. We have an office recommendation for 7.6. Somebody on the floor, have a look at that. Councillor Hughes, you wish to speak to it?
No, don't wish to say very much, but yeah, I think it covers off what it needs to, and yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. So,
Have a seconder for that motion? Have a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Davies, you wish to speak? No. Any other discussion? Councillor, the Mayor?
Yeah, I'm not convinced by reading this report. It's a 2-page report, that's it. And we're being asked to spend a reasonable amount of money, which doesn't actually say what it is. Previously, these types of reports have been quite lengthy. They take a number of years generally, and they can cost quite a bit of money, yet there's none of that in here. There's also no real reasoning why the state government took this out. So I'd like to, in fact, defer the matter and get some further information around why the government doesn't see that it's necessary to do this type of work anymore. And because I think we should be working within the new planning system as much as we can. And I'm just a little bit puzzled as to why we get a 2-page report. It's not even a 2-page report. And let's just get on with it. And I just think there's some gaps in the information, and I'd like to see some more information and some more feedback from the state government. Thank you.
So you're going to speak against the motion, then, and maybe any other discussion? You wish to close the debate, Councillor Hughes?
I don't know if we can get any more clarification to the Mayor's concerns from any of the staff members. I mean, I know we're in the debate section now, but yeah, whether the CEO would like to respond.
I might ask Ryan Viney to respond. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, through the chair. As the report stated, this requirement has been taken out of the Planning and Design Act, which is a new planning system. So we felt that it was an important document to provide guidance on council strategic directions relative to its desires around land use planning and changes to the development plan. I suppose we still think that this would be of benefit to council to have an understanding of over a 5-year period what types of change that it would like to pursue through a code amendment or alike, or any strategic investigations the council would like to undertake to support any policy change or anything from a land use perspective. In terms of the finance, the last strategic directions report was prepared by staff in-house, and that would be how we would seek to progress this particular report. But noting, yes, there would be obviously time and resources, at least from staff, in preparing that and presenting it to council.
That answer your question, Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, I think it does. I'm quite happy to continue with the motion as is. And,
okay, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Can I have that again, please? All those in favour? Against? Is lost. And the Mayor preempted a motion. You wish to move that? That'd be
that the matter get deferred pending further discussion with Department of Planning and a future report be brought back to a future IES meeting, or a report be brought back to a future IES meeting.
That'll be deferred and be brought back.
Pending further discussion
Discussion.
with the Department of Planning.
Pending.
Pending, yeah, that's okay.
Put a P in front of the, that's it.
With the Department of Planning, and a report be brought back to a future IES meeting.
Happy with that? Do you wish to say anything else?
No, thank you.
Have a seconder? Councillor Kosh, you wish to speak? Any other further discussion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Carry. Information reports. You did a whole block, don't you? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 8.3. This will be up to 8.3. Yeah, move that. You wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you for the report. I think that it shows that people are engaging with council on the grant process that we have. Small amounts of money seem to be the order of the day. There is quite an interest in restoring walls. There was a recent workshop in Finner Street on how to do some stonework. I think it was really well attended. I think there were 2 workshops there. I think Simon Zeller is actively involved in this space. He's quite an expert now in this area. I've been contacted by a number of people that are interested in the grant process and are keen to upgrade their walls. But again, there's also owners, as we know, that are not as engaged to fix their walls up on their private land. So it's a noting report, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Have a seconder? Councillor Hughes, you wish to speak?
Just to say, the report itself is really, really good. It's very detailed. It sort of makes, anytime we have another discussion on stone walls, I think it's a real good source document. It's got so much detail and so factually written. I'd like to commend the people that put it together. It's an excellent report, and I think it's a sound document for us to continue working in this space. So it's good.
Okay. Any other further discussion? Councillor Shanks and Councillor Fraser.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support the motion. I just did want to reiterate something the Mayor said as well. There is a thirst in our town to sort of maintain our essence, and some of that is, a lot of that is actually our heritage essence. And we are seeing, as time goes on, walls and our heritage buildings, some are dilapidating. There are some good news stories. One is the Finner Street one that Adrian Shackley decided to buy, and he's doing that with Simon Zeller. And you know, I guess that's probably a good point. With Simon Zeller is a good example of you know, knowing a lot in this space. It's not just come about. He has a lot of experience with heritage buildings here locally, overseas. He has a very strong passion for it. Imagine if we had someone like that on our take. Imagine if we had that sort of resource at our fingertips that can bring forward solutions to problems that aren't going away. I completely agree with Councillor Hughes. It's a well-written report, and there is a lot of facts, and it is a good document to be able to read. But at some point in time, we need to be able to figure out, how are we going to solve this problem? What are we going to do about it? Because there was an audit done in 2006, 2007, as we have reported, and it did capture a whole lot of stuff. I can guarantee in 15 years, those walls aren't as good as what they were back then. So at some point in time, we're going to have to start seeing action that takes it out of an agenda and a report that I'm not against, but I'm saying we're going to need some boots on the ground here. And we're going to have to figure out how to do it. We know the recent motion that's gone through about getting a stonemason on a 12-month contract. Now, I admit that motion is not perfect, but that is the elected body trying to push some action in the space, because these walls aren't going to stand forever. So I just, really wanted to point that out. I think we need to really work in and try to figure out how we're going to solve this historical problem, and also balance and mitigate the not just benefiting one ratepayer, really tapping into the essence of that historical restoration as a whole town. But yeah, look, happy to support this how it sits.
Councillor Fraser, you're next.
I'll support this motion. I have to say that I was seriously considering rescinding the motion about the stonemason, but I'm happy to see that in this report, under opportunities, it's got here that there's a future, there'll be a future report coming back with some costs. I actually think the last motion was probably one of the most irresponsible motions I've seen on council, because there was no costs involved. It didn't ask for a report. It just said that we were going to do it. We had no idea what it was going to cost us, no idea what it's going to cost us at all. So I just think it's really quite irresponsible. But I'm happy to see that the council, the staff have actually said that the engagement of a stonemason to further assist members, there will be a report coming back to council on that. So I'm happy about that.
Councillor Kosh.
Look, I'd love to rescind that motion about employing a stonemason, because I agree it was very irresponsible. We just decided we're going to do it, and we had no costings, we had no anything. And when you look into this report, one of the biggest problems with the walls is people are using them as retaining walls. So you have to do a whole lot of work just to make, to get the walls at a point where you can actually do anything with it. We saw that with the wall here in High Street. They had to spend a lot of time and effort actually taking all that soil away, battering it back, doing a whole lot of things, and then the stonemason could come in and actually tip it back up and make it stable again. So, I can't see very many scenarios where we could actually use public monies just to do works on private stone walls. So, that was one of my arguments when that motion was unfortunately passed. I mean, I can't see any scenario where you could actually do that, because it's not, you're benefiting an individual, not the community, really. So, I'll be interested. I mean, it's obviously going to get passed. I'll probably vote against it, but no, I'll vote for it. It's just a noting report. But it'd be nice to see what those options are. But I would be hoping the option might be we just rescind that motion, because I think it was a very, very bad motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Davies. Councillor Kosh, you turned those off.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think for me, the stonemason debate, which I guess we're going to be talking about in this motion, is something that, look, I think this was something where I think hopefully better staff processes can make it so that these kinds of issues don't continue to happen. I think this is something we've been discussing, is that, in terms of a motion goes up, it has no feedback from staff. It's, in that case, that motion had been on the books for 6 months or something. Halfway through the motion, we got a question, oh, have you done any investigation? Nope. And then that was what happened there. And then it goes through, and then we're trying to sort out details. And that's something where, look, I think that's an example of needing a better system in regards to getting responses from staff. I don't blame the elected members for pushing something through if they feel like, they're working with the best information they have. And I think, look, the heritage walls are important, and I'll support this motion.
Any other discussion? Wish to close the debate there.
Thank you. Yes, interesting discussion. Thank you, members. Yes, that motion or that resolution, which is a council resolution now, I've had quite a bit of feedback from community members, in particular, I don't want my rates being spent on a stonemason and when, you know, on somebody's private property. So that's been the flavour of some of the feedback that I've been getting. So that's interesting. I think we'll get another report. I think that will be quite helpful for the discussion, particularly leading to your point, Councillor Davies. I think that will be quite useful, hopefully, to provide further clarity around that. But yeah, close the debate and vote on the noting motion. Thank you.
The debate's closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. There's no items listed for discussion. Items listed for future meeting, no. Questions without notice. Councillor Fraser first.
Just a question on the toilets, the new toilets. Do we have any dates for when they're going to be completed? I keep getting asked, when are they going to be finished? When are they going to be finished?
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
And I'll do it properly now. So, and through the chair, I need to learn my etiquette. Sorry, everyone. So, in good news, so the toilet that is going up opposite the post office, that's actually going to be finished towards the beginning of the week after next. So they've just got to get all the big equipment in for the changing places area the week after next. There is some irrigation work that has to go around it and the DDA compliant car parking, which may happen just slightly after that because we've got to pull it all together. So I think, I haven't got my calendar open in front of me. Oh, definitely by the end of October, that will be open. The Apex Park toilet, the contractor has promised it is going, the building and toilet will be finished on the 26th of October. There's the final landscaping work that has to go around that. And again, the DDA compliant car parking. But in theory, you should have 2 toilets ready to be opened at the end of the month. Finally.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see that. Sorry. Councillor Cosh, please.
Yeah, I suppose there's a follow-on question just about the wall, how that's going.
Thank you.
Through the chair again. So the structural wall is complete. The landscaping behind the wall has been going in over the last day. The trees are due to go in tomorrow. However, big rain events over the next couple of days may change whether the contractors go out or not. I know it seems ridiculous given it's landscaping. The trees really like the water. The front of the wall, which has got the ceramic mural, to go back onto it. So the ceramic mural itself needs to undergo some restoration work now. Now that's going at a slightly slower pace in the background. So I'm working with a couple of the local artists. So Kate Jenkins and Kristen Wallers, for those of you who are familiar with those names, both Barossa local artists and Barossa local artists, ceramic artist specialists, which is what we need to restore that mural. It's actually going to be a number of months before that mural is ready to go back up on the wall. So we are putting up an interim temporary representation of that mural. So we've basically had high definition photography of the mural when it was in situ, printed up on a wearable and hopefully graffiti proof vinyl. So that will go up as its temporary backfill, and we'll put up some information for the community so that they know. There may be some opportunities to get the community actually involved in the restoration process as well, which I think would be really fitting. It'd actually be a really nice, I don't know, it would be in honour of what was a community art piece in the first place. So the temporary fence for that is due to come down mid next week. There'll be a little area of temporary fence left around some of the new lawn that's going in, just because we don't want it to get rolled up and taken away before it's established. So that's where that park is at. The back side of the mural, for those of you who've had a look, there's 6 big blank panels in that as well. That's for the Domestic Violence Network Memorial mural, which is under development through other groups as well. So look, the planning looks absolutely beautiful. I can't actually wait to get the lighting up and have it all done. I can't wait to have the toilets done either, just for everyone.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering what's happening out at the rusty fingernails. They're getting rustier, so they could fall over soon. But there was 4 people out there working the other day. Are we still spending money on trying to make them look beautiful? And how far away is the sign that says "Welcome to Gawler"?
You want to answer that one? Ryan? Wendy? You again, Wendy?
On again through the chair. Now, I must admit this would be, I will take this somewhat on notice because Sam would have a more detailed answer than what I can give. For people working in and around the southern entrance statement art, my assumption is that it is actually people doing weed control in and around the native planting there. So there is quite a lot of effort going on in that space. Obviously with the very, very wet spring that we've had, you know, we're trying to keep the native grasses going, but we're battling the weeds. I understand that there is some information coming back to council on that in the near future. In terms of the entrance statement, so entrance statement is part of the broader design piece of work being done through the beautification plan implementation project. So that is something that we have started to scope within the IES division. We're not very far away through. Really, we've just been scoping and working out how any entrance welcome to Gawler signage would then need to be worked in and out throughout the town. Obviously, we need to have a consistent Gawler branding in that space. So underway, but off to a slightly slow start.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other questions? Councillor Shanks?
Just in regards to the communication boards, I note that there's a community consultation process starting, I think, on Thursday at the Apex playground. Once that community consultation is done, will it be the same sorts of boards rolled out in the other, I think, 4 or 5 fenced playgrounds, or are we sort of going to be doing a consultation on each area? Just trying to gauge when we're going to see all 5 signs installed.
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
Again, through the chair. I will take that on notice. I'm not 100% sure what the plan is there. What I would hope. I mean, I would hope that there would be a consistent rollout throughout all the playgrounds. I think there's no need. Every playground and all the children at the different playgrounds deserve to have, and the families who use those playgrounds deserve to have the same access to those types of signs. I think it's really important for our community to have that improvement in accessibility for everybody.
Any other questions? Oops. Without notice. Any motions without notice? It's not. So you wish to have a break before we go in the confidential matter? You'll have can I move that? 5 or 10-minute break? Okay, we'll have that and then we'll come back to a confidential matter. The CEO is going to give us an updated report. We might as well. I have a move, please, that we break for 5 minutes. Councillor Kosh, seconded, Councillor. Motion? Just break, yes. Just break 5-10 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. No, it's no. That's just comes. I just got told today.